13th of February 2026. My name is Acquah, and here are your headlines. President Mahama directs Auditor General to take necessary and appropriate action following calls for a forensic audit into GBC's finances from October 2019 to date. And government adjusts cocoa prices to reflect 90% of free on-board price for remainder of 2026 crop season in a move aimed at easing the deepening liquidity crisis that has left farmers unpaid for months. But the decision is facing pushback from the minority, who are demanding the removal of Cocoa Board CEO Dr. Randy Abbey. We've got this and more coming right up. Please do stay with us. You're once again welcome to the GH Today News with me, Acquah. Now let's move on to our first story. Aggrieved workers of the Ghana Broadcasting Corporation have declared a vote of no confidence in the current management, calling for a forensic audit of the corporation's finances from October 2019 to date. Now, the workers are demanding that the Director General steps aside to pave the way for what they describe as an independent and transparent investigation. Now, the joint divisional and management unions warn that the future of the state broadcaster is at risk, citing alleged financial mismanagement, staff victimization, and the prolonged neglect of worker welfare and critical operational needs.
Solidarity forever for the union makes us strong. That's one. That's all.
At a press conference in Accra, the aggrieved workers called on appointing authorities to commission an independent forensic audit and ensure that officials whose tenure is under scrutiny step aside to avoid any interference. They are also demanding that the Director of Human Resources proceeds on leave, insisting that due process must be upheld and protected.
In light of the foregoing, we wish to inform the appointing authorities that we have lost confidence in the leadership of the Director General, Professor Amma, and can no longer work under his leadership. We are also calling for a forensic audit into the finances of the corporation from 1st October 2019, when he assumed office, till date. We are also calling on the Director of Human Resources, Mr. GHOne, to proceed on leave with immediate effect.
According to the unions, their concerns stem from alleged financial malfeasance and poor resource management, including questions surrounding land sales across the country and the controversial 13th African Games broadcast contract, where GBC reportedly earned a fraction of the contract's stated value.
How can you outsource a contract, a main contractor, taking $105,000 out of $3.6 million? What is the terms of contract that you, the main contractor, will outsource more than 90%? Then you don't deserve, you don't qualify. It is only forensic audits that can unveil some of these things. His presence will always interfere. We know what they are capable of doing.
The workers say staff welfare has deteriorated sharply, pointing to unpaid transfer grants, full allowances, medical bills, stored promotions, staff attrition, and broken down equipment.
It is important to note that several critical issues remain pending at the Standing Joint Committee, including staff promotions, stoppage of salaries, unfair termination of appointment of some workers, enhancement of the Provident Fund, general staff welfare concerns, management fuel, and conditions of services of management. These matters were expected to have been concluded last year, but remain unresolved.
Following the expiration of a 24-hour ultimatum to management, workers have escalated their protest, wearing red armbands and hoisting red flags nationwide.
We are aware how tools wearing have become a challenge. people walk sometimes from Central to East. They take the nearest car, Kanish and 37 before they can reach GBC.
They warned that continued inaction could push the Ghana Broadcasting Corporation towards institutional collapse, further eroding public trust in the state broadcaster. Appealing to the presidency and the National Media Commission, the workers stressed that GBC belongs to the people of Ghana, vowing to remain united and resolute until decisive action is taken.
If you join us, let's go. If you won't join us, step aside. But if you stand in our way, we will crush you.
Meanwhile, President John Dramani Mahama has directed the Auditor General to take the necessary and appropriate action on the Ghana Broadcasting Corporation matter. Now, the directive is contained in a letter signed by the Secretary to the President, Callistus Mahama, in response to a request dated 25th November 2025 from the General Secretary of the Public Service Workers Union, Bernard Ajay. Now, the union had formally called for a forensic audit into the 13th African Games broadcast contract involving the state broadcaster. The letter conveys the President's expectation that the matter be duly reviewed and concluded, and assures the Auditor General of the highest consideration of John Dramani Mahama. Now, away from that, the Acting Director of Public Affairs and International Relations, Francis Opoku-Amoah, says Ghana is set to maximize the benefits of medicinal and industrial cannabis. He emphasized that only qualified entities will be licensed and cultivation will be limited to cannabis with a THC content of no more than 0.3%. Meanwhile, security analyst Emmanuel Kutin welcomed the decision as a positive step, but expressed concerns about its implementation, questioning whether NACOC has the necessary equipment and surveillance licenses to ensure effective regulation.
This is a very good policy, but implementation has always been a problem for us as a country. And I think that NACOC had to go back, do stakeholder engagement, let the people that these things are coming to affect know what they are coming to do, and put all the structures and regulatory frameworks in place. Without this thing being put in place, I'm sorry they are jumping the gun, and this thing is going to be another failed political promise. NACOC should never be under the influence of the political authority, where when there's change of government, we change most of our top hierarchy of the people who man that organization. Same to our investigative bodies. If we really want to put security measures in place to safeguard the sanctity of our democracy. Very good policy, but unfortunately.
Now, the government has announced a reduction in the producer price of cocoa, cutting the price of a 64-kilogram bag from 3,600 Ghana cedis to 2,587 Ghana cedis. The announcement was made by the Minister for Finance, Dr. Kessiel Atto-Forson, following an emergency cabinet meeting chaired by President John Dramani Mahama to address the ongoing crisis in the cocoa sector. Now, the decision comes amid growing agitation by cocoa farmers over government's delays in paying licensed cocoa buyers, a situation that has worsened the plight of farmers since the crisis began. Now, addressing the media, Finance Minister Dr. Kessiel Atto-Forson said Cabinet has directed Cocoa Board to immediately settle all outstanding debts owed the cocoa farmers across the country.
Assess the challenges facing the sector and review the producer price for the remainder of the 2025-2026 crop year. In order to cushion the farmer, the PPRC has recommended that the farmer be paid 90% of the achieved gross FOB of $4,200 per ton to mitigate the adverse impact on the farmer as a result of the fall in the world market price. As a result of that, the PPLC thereby announces that effective today, Thursday, 12 February 2026, the new producer price for the remainder of the 2025-2026 crop season will now be 41,392 Ghana cedis per ton and 2,587 Ghana cedis per bag. This measure has become necessary to reflect the reality of the world market price of cocoa, ensure the injection of immediate liquidity for expedited payment of farmers, and guarantee the sustainability of our cocoa sector. In conclusion, government wishes to convey its sincere appreciation to the Ghanaian cocoa farmer and all stakeholders for their forbearance and sacrifice over the years. Cocoa has always been the mainstay of our economy, and wish to assure them that these reforms will protect the interest of the cocoa farmer and the cocoa.
Now, the finance minister also attributed the price reduction to a significant drop in cocoa prices on the international market.
A new cocoa board bill will be presented to Parliament to implement an automatic adjustment of producer price to align with movement in the world market price, exchange rate, and other key variables, and guarantees a minimum of 70% of gross FOB price to be paid to the cocoa farmer. A new financing model for cocoa purchases and related operations with associated benefit for increased processing will be introduced effective 2026-2027 crop season. The current financing model was invented as a necessity after the syndicated loan failed, after 32 years of successful implementation, and it was proven not to be sustainable. In fact, it has proven not to be sustainable. The financing model is entirely dependent on a buyer's willingness to bear the financing cost and to pre-finance the purchase of cocoa. The key motivation for buyers in the previous season was the rollover contract priced at a rate of $2,661 per metric ton, when the existing market price were above $8,000 per metric ton. Once the gap between the rollover contract and the market price closes, and the majority of the rollover contracts are serviced, the buyer will not be willing to pre-finance the purchase of cocoa crop. Alternatively, the previous syndicated loan model requires that Cocoa Board sells forward most of the raw beans to lock in the contract, which repays the loan and serves as collateral as well. This system did not allow Cocoa Board to optimize prices on the market. In addition, the use of raw beans contract as collateral for the loan meant that Ghana could not optimize its installed capacity for processing.
However, the minority in Parliament has strongly condemned the government's decision to slash the cocoa producer price, calling it unfair to farmers and damaging to the sector.
The new managers of the cocoa sector have reset the trading program of Cocoa Board. We used to sell about 70% on forward sales and 30% on spot. They argued that that was an incompetent approach and decided to change it. And now they are selling about 70% on spot. That is why today, as prices have dipped, they are struggling and are saying that the price they had announced ends up being higher than the current prices on the market. That's number one. This action to announce a 28% reduction in the price amounts to a haircut of about 28% on close to 1 million Ghanaian cocoa farmers. Already, when you go into the cocoa growing areas, I was in my areas just a few days ago. A lot of young people are already not going into cocoa because they say the older folk who went into it, they don't see a transformation in their lives. It's left with the old, elderly, poor on the farms. When you do this, what is going to happen in subsequent years is that even those ones will not be going into the cocoa production. If they won't sell their cocoa farms to Galamsey operators, God knows what they will do. All of this has come about because of the reset that Cocoa Board did. And that is why, respectfully, we ask the President to relieve the Cocoa Board CEO of his responsibilities at this point in time.
We were told that the Minister for Finance was coming to announce what they call a restructuring of the cocoa sector. We are very surprised that the minister rather used the opportunity to shortchange cocoa farmers. Before we left government, we introduced a turnaround strategy for Cocoa Board, and we worked on this with the IMF. This strategy was intended to comprehensively restructure Cocoa Board. What is happening today in the cocoa sector is not surprising to us because this government has failed to implement the Cocoa Board turnaround strategy. That is why Cocoa Board is facing these challenges. I heard that the minister is directing to move the cost of cocoa roads to the Ministry of Roads. This measure was in the strategy, the turnaround strategy that we handed over to them. It took them 1 year. They have not implemented it. Only because there is now crisis in the cocoa sector, the minister has rushed to announce this measure, which the minister was well informed about in the strategy for turning around Cocoa Board, which we handed over to them. They were also supposed to legislate a transparent pricing policy for cocoa. They have not done that. They were to remove some cost items which tend to reduce the producer price of cocoa, which we thought were unnecessary and in some cases duplicative. They have not done that. They were supposed to get Cocoa Board to move away from non-core businesses and also to improve on efficiency and reduce costs, particularly in procurement. They have not done that. And so as far as we are concerned, this NDC government did not need to announce any new strategy for restructuring Cocoa Board. And as we expected, they could not announce any comprehensive strategy for restructuring Cocoa Board.
With matters of agriculture, farmers within the Waja Irrigation Enclave are calling on the Ghana Irrigation Development Authority and government to urgently intervene over what they describe as increasing encroachment on irrigation lands critical to food production. Now, the farmers say the activities of the encroachers threaten the livelihoods of more than 30,000 farmhands and head farmers, warning that continued inaction could leave them without land to cultivate and undermine efforts to feed the growing population. They are urging the Ministries of Food and Agriculture, Lands and Natural Resources, National Security and the Presidency to act swiftly to protect the enclave, insisting they will pursue all lawful means to defend the land, which they describe as their primary source.
Speaking during a press conference to register their displeasure, the farmers say the activities of the encroachers are steadily reducing the acreage available for cultivation, threatening the livelihoods of more than 30,000 farmhands and head farmers who depend on the enclave for survival. According to them, if the situation is not addressed immediately, there will be little or no land left for food production. A development, they warn, could undermine efforts to ensure consistent bumper harvest and food security.
So we currently have a situation where the originally acquired land of over 13,000 acres has been reduced to a paltry 800 acres. So as we speak, it is only 6% of the original mass of land acquired for irrigation farming which has been maintained or retained by government. And even with that, there are still threats of encroachment, in certain cases aided by officials of the Lands Commission in cahoots with certain well-placed persons using land guards.
Public Relations Officer of the Ghana Irrigation Development Authority, GHOne Addison, says the Ministries of Food and Agriculture, as well as Land and Natural Resources, National Security, and the Presidency must step in and protect the land from further encroachment.
GHIDA assures farmers and the public that the authority does not condone encroachment in any form. We will continue to advocate strongly for the protection of irrigation lands in the national interest and call on all stakeholders to respect lawful land use. The future of irrigated agriculture in Ghana depends on our collective commitment to protecting these shared assets.
The farmers insist that as lawful beneficiaries of the irrigation scheme, they will explore every legal means available to defend the land, describing it as their lifeblood and a critical national asset for sustainability.
Well, that's all we have for the GH Today news this morning. For more news updates, click on starfm.com.gh. Do enjoy your Friday and your weekend. My name is Amma Acquah.